What's up, everyone, and welcome to That Game Rules, a retro gaming podcast where every week we break down a classic video game and all the pop culture that surrounds it. I'm your host, Scuba Steve. Thank you so much for listening, and today we're talking about everyone's favorite blue hedgehog, his two-tailed fox friend, and a villain so evil he didn't spend 6 years at evil medical school to be called Mr. Thank You. We're talking Sonic the Hedgehog 2, a gem for the old Sega Genesis, a Chaos Emerald if you will. It's pretty and shiny. I'm excited to talk Sonic, talk Sega, and the console wars as well, but before we get going fast, let's throttle back and go over some show notes. Every week here, we go back in time, talk about all sorts of nostalgic memories. Then we'll get into the game vitals, the box art, the characters. We'll talk development, history, levels, music, check out some comments and reviews, and a whole bunch of nonsense. Finally, we'll give this game some awards, slap a ranking on it, shower this game with praise like a big shower of rings flying when I hit the spikes, which I do a lot. Does this game rule, or is the blast processing too much for you to handle? Email the show at thatgamerules@gmail.com. Hit me up. I'm a nobody. I'll message you back that day. Tell me what games you want to talk about. Tell me I'm an idiot because I think Link to the Past is better than Breath of the Wild. It's fine. Go ahead and find us over at thatgamerules.com, as well as all the other stuff, the Facebook, the YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. I'm finally on all those things. I don't know what I'm doing. I've been making reels, adding gameplay pics. Go check those out. Other than that, what have I been up to? Happy 2026, y'all. We're going to move into this year. We're going to keep playing video games. We're going to wipe the slate clean. We're going to forget about 2025. We're just going to keep moving forward. I've been watching and playing way too much TV lately because my kids for Christmas bought me an 85-inch Samsung fancy TV. But let me just say, I'm a parent of four. My two oldest are in their 20s now, and I can finally say, after thousands and thousands of hours of parent involvement, hundreds of thousands of hard-earned dollars spent, and literal years taken off of my life from parenting stress, that it's finally paying off because I got me a new TV. Yeah, baby, yeah. No, really, though. I appreciate my kids. I'm looking forward to the day down the road when my kids can take me and my wife on like a vacation someday. So I'm looking forward to that. It'll all pay off down the road, I swear. But let's talk some gaming memories, and we'll get into this time warp. Sonic joins this club of video games for me that I played wrong when I was a kid. But Jimmy cracked corn, and I don't care, because I was having fun. Sonic is definitely not Mario. This game is meant to be played fast. Introducing that two-player split screen, we couldn't see where we were going at all. All of this taking place during the console wars of the 90s, the games, the commercials, the talk on the playground, like are you a Nintendo kid or are you a Sega kid? All of that was going on, and I say let us be both. So let's get back to the 90s and let's set the scene with this week's Time Warp.
Have enough road to get up to 88.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
And we are now back in 1992. Those console wars, they're going hard. But first, let's talk about our sponsor. Instead of going fast like Sonic, would you prefer to jump in place awkwardly and then probably land on your face? Then go grab yourself some Moonshoes.
More fun from the creators of Squiggle Wiggle Riders and Squiggle Ball.
Oh, Moonshoes. Why bother with the cumbersome task of climbing onto a trampoline when you can just strap two of them onto your feet and just let science do the work? Go check out some of those commercials. I don't think, just like you can't, like if an elevator's falling, like Mythbuster style, you can't jump and then stop yourself from falling. There's some science here, and I don't think the science is working when it comes to the Moonshoes, because you're just jumping around with big plastic clogs and really getting nowhere. But they were trying to jump on that, pun there, jump on that trampoline craze. Trampolines themselves were kind of like, I don't know, rich people stuff when I was a kid. Maybe that was because we grew up in a trailer park and didn't have yards. But trampolines weren't really part of my childhood. But I'm always keeping an eye out, like Homer Simpson, for a free trampoline.
Oh my God!
What is it?
Trampoline! Trampoline!
He said what now?
Please don't bring home any more old crutches.
Oh, no, you don't! That trampoline is mine!
So yeah, no trampolines for me growing up. But moving on, 1992 movies, Encino Man, Brendan Fraser, just keep going. Make that Mummy 4 movie. I hear it's being talked about. We got Batman Returns, definitely a Christmas movie, right up there with Die Hard, one of the best. Wayne's World, Party Time, excellent, of course. And Home Alone 2, it's a clone, but still good. Everything about that movie repeats from Home Alone 1, even the crazy bird lady, kind of referencing the snow shoveling guy from the first one. All of it, it's just a repeat. But we were having fun. I like Macaulay Culkin. TV shows, of course, we're gonna send some love to the Sonic cartoon. The first one, it was Goofy, The Old Adventures of Sonic. I'm not going to play the title sequence from that. It's good Sonic music, but I'm going to play you a little bit of the end credit music because it does a good mix of all these kind of Sonic tunes together. So you can take a listen to this. Not bad, Sonic. We're getting in the adventures of Sonic there with he's cool, he's rad, he's eating chili dogs. All those things happening over on the Sonic cartoon. Other TV shows, we had the superhero boom going on. DC and Marvel just cranking out cartoons like Batman, Spider-Man, X-Men. All top-tier cartoons. We had the Disney Renaissance going on because Disney was about as done as far as a company until Little Mermaid essentially saved them. They were about to go under. And then from there, 1992's Aladdin helped, as well as all the TV shows based on their films. They had a lot. They had the Aladdin show. They had a Little Mermaid cartoon. Pretty much all these movies then had their own cartoons, which were becoming real popular on the Disney Channel. Also, we had Eek the Cat, shout out there, the Addams Family cartoon, and a personal favorite of mine, Tiny Toon Adventures. I love that show. I love that Nintendo game. We'll do that one day. Let's talk some toys straight out of the Toys R Us holiday catalog. The OG, the original Super Soaker, that's in there. The Troll dolls, those are becoming a huge fad. Game Boy, as well as that big Game Boy case. And then we got the SNES rocking the Super Scope. And I will always shout out Mighty Max, those little play sets. I love those guys. They're Polly Pocket clones, but that's all right. We were taking toys in all forms back then. We're going to talk a little bit about the console wars. I'd like to do a whole episode on that someday. But let's talk about it. 1992 was the peak of the fierce rivalry between the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo. With the Genesis coming out a little bit before the Super Nintendo, a little bit of a head start. The battle for the 16-bit market, defined by aggressive marketing, iconic mascots, and a massive library of games. In this corner, we've got the Sega Genesis.
Genesis does
16-bit arcade graphics.
You can't do this on Nintendo. Genesis does
16-bit sports action.
You can't do this on Nintendo. Genesis
Does.
Genesis
Does.
Genesis
Does.
Genesis
Does.
Genesis does
Get
Joe Montana free, Pat Riley free, Buster Douglas free, Super Monaco GP free, or Collins free. What Nintendo?
Oh, Genesis does what Nintendon't. So Sega's rocking that blast processing. Nobody knows what it means, but we were talking about it back then. They had the edgy, cool commercials, impressive library thanks to a lot of arcade ports coming straight out of the arcades. They had Sonic the Hedgehog, of course, and their slogan, Sega does what Nintendon't. Featuring games like Streets of Rage 2, Echo the Dolphin, TMNT Hyperstone Heist, Road Rash 2, and Kid Chameleon. He's got an episode back then. That's a weird random game. Go check out Kid Chameleon. But then in the opposite corner, we've got the Super Nintendo.
Introducing the next generation from Nintendo. New Super Mario World. Created especially for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. It's a bit more exciting, a bit more challenging, a bit more graphic, a bit more colorful, a bit more realistic, a bit more levels, a bit more secret, a bit more enemies, a bit more friends, a bit more sound, a bit hotter, a bit cooler, a bit weird, a bit more revolutionary, a bit more Mario, a bit more of what you want. It's 16-bit, and it's yours only if you get new Super Nintendo. Now you're playing with power, superpower.
And Nintendo with their slogan, now you're playing with power, superpower. They're promoting more of their family-friendly, but a quality library. So we always know Nintendo was trying to be more family-oriented. They've got the established franchises coming over to the Super Nintendo from the regular Nintendo. Your Metroid, your Kirby, that's coming off a Game Boy there. But of course your Marios, Castlevania, all the beefy Super Nintendo versions we're getting there. They had some strategic pricing, keeping themselves. I mean, they had the kind of the money to be able to do that if they're going to compete, to keep their pricing right in line with Sega. And of course, they had Mario, their main mascot, and a lot of the third-party stuff carrying over from the NES. When you look at developers like Rare for the Super Nintendo, making those Donkey Kong countries and like really pushing that Super Nintendo graphically as far as what it could do there. And the SNES featuring classic games like Super Mario Kart, of course, Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past, and Street Fighter 2. You know, a lot of people connect those fighting games to the Sega Genesis. But Street Fighter 2 actually came out on the Super Nintendo first, so they got a little head start there as well. But really, the arcade, the fighting, once you got the Genesis with like your 6-button controller and things, they really kind of took over like fighting games, I feel like really belong on the Sega. So we'll talk console wars more eventually. We're going to get into Sonic 2. But just the console wars in general, it makes you wonder like where Sega went wrong. And we can really start to pinpoint it back to their Transformer machine. Too many add-ons probably. You know, was it the Sega CD, the Saturn being kind of unnecessary in the middle, the Dreamcast kind of coming too little too late, maybe too many new gimmicks on the Dreamcast there. But then it makes you wonder, where did Sega go wrong, but where did Sony go right? And that's a whole nother story as far as, excuse me, the partnership, the mystical, never happened, what would it happen in another universe as far as like Sony and Nintendo and their relationship. Because if you don't know real quick, that was where the Sony PlayStation came from. Nintendo hired Sony to develop a disc system for them. Decided to go without, Sony. But then Sony was like, well, we've got this, this thing we developed. Why don't we try doing our own? So that's a real quick, vague story of that. But that's how it happened. Nintendo's mistake made the PlayStation eventually just be its biggest competitor. So they born that system into, they've created their own worst enemy. Almost like, when you're top dog like that, Nintendo, you gotta keep an eye on things. Same way Blockbuster was laughing at Netflix. We see where that went. So that whole Nintendo partnership, I'd love to talk about that in some episode. There's prototypes of a literal Nintendo PlayStation out there and those kind of things. But we're gonna keep talking Sonic. We're gonna get into this game. We're gonna look at the box art. Let's get to it.
Now, I know you love video games, and I asked the clerk which is the one every boy wants.
You got me. Oh, yeah.
We're talking Sonic the Hedgehog 2, 1992 for the Sega Genesis. but also some terrible downgraded versions on the Master System and the Game Gear. There is a Sonic 2 episode of the Game Gear in the back catalog. I was harder on that game, but probably not as hard as I should be. Now that I'm starting to get some gamer rage I want to take out on some of these games. Sonic 2 for the Game Gear, you suck. But we'll move on. This Master System and the Mega Drive. I want to talk about that real quick because I am an idiot and I was a dumb kid. But I would always get... So I've only recently discovered the Master System itself as far as being Sega's Nintendo. Sega's like 8-bit system. If you don't know, the Sega Genesis, the 16-bit guy here, also referred to as the Mega Drive in Japan and other countries, just like Nintendo is the Famicom over there, the PAL in Europe, all these kind of different names. So the Sega Genesis is the Mega Drive. I would get that confused with Master System as well. So I didn't know there was this whole other 8-bit system. And it's weird because it's what my wife grew up with. She'd played games on that. So she was telling me about games. She's telling me about like the Adventure Island version on there. And there's just like confusion where I'm like, what system are we talking about? So anyway, I'm an idiot. I got to check out some of these other Master System games. They're essentially, I was playing a lot of Game Gear, and that was 8-bit, so I was essentially playing a lot of Master System games on the Game Gear. But anyway, I'm dumb. Let's talk box art. It's great. You already know it. The big number 2, Sonic and Tails. That big number 2, just like those elementary pictures you take in school or something where they have a big number. Maybe they'd have a big number for your age, but no, in school you'd have maybe like a giant pencil or something they'd pose you with like the laser beam lights in the background. But anyway, this game, Sega and your freaking indestructible cases. Like, there's a reason those old flimsy cardboard NES boxes go for so much money, because they fall apart. They're cardboard. We threw them in the garbage. Nobody was throwing away their plastic Sega cases. So genius move on Sega, protecting games and making your cases not valuable because everybody has them. But as far as the art itself, they blacked out Robotnik's eyes for this game, so that's kind of creepy. But other than that, it looks great. Japan wanted to design Sonic more anime-like, and we'll talk about the marriage here of Japan and Sega USA and all the complications they had making this game. But yeah, Japan wanted it to be more anime-like, as seen in later years. If you've seen Sonic lately, they went kind of hard in that area. But Sega in America said nah and went with the classic cartoony version. Lots of butting heads in the development of this game between Japan and the US. So let's check that out more with some development history, and let's see what happened there. So it was this game developed by the Sega Technical Institute, or STI, in collaboration with Sonic team members who relocated from Japan. Sonic 2's development was marked by several challenges. So they were trying something new here. They made this Sega Technical Institute over in Silicon Valley in the U.S., where all the tech stuff is popping out there in the 90s, growing real big out there. Computers and such. So they took, the successful Sonic team members from Japan and shipped them over to the U.S., these veterans, as it were, to come work with these kind of American noobs in developing Sonic 2. So you had these, veteran Japan Sonic team workers leaving their country, moving to the U.S., which most of them were fairly impressed as far as, the buildings, the studios, how much work, I guess at least America was putting into developing its technical age over here as well. But there's going to be a lot of issues. There's going to be language barriers. There's going to be cultural barriers. But it was what they wanted to do to hope that these veteran Japan artists and developers would bestow their knowledge to the Americans, and hence better games for everybody and all these things, but definitely complications. The development was complicated by the cultural and language barriers between the Japanese and American developers. Culturally, language, of course, is going to be an issue. Culturally, there were a lot of differences. The Japanese were used to crunch conditions, noting they often worked through the night and slept in their cubicles. In contrast, the Americans locked the offices at night. They were like, bam, punching out in 5, and we're out of here. And the Japanese workers are like sleeping in cots in their offices, looking at these Americans.
You son of a bitch.
like walking out at 5, walking in at 9, all those kind of things. Besides, and I'm making fun of us Americans here as far as being lazy. And, some of us are, some of us aren't. But as far as Japanese culture, that always fascinates me. They do seem to be it's almost like their work ethic isn't even based off of like money or any of the kind of, self goals that kind of people over here might have. It's almost like dishonorable to not work super hard. It's like this honor thing with them. Like, I respect that. I just respect just any culture that isn't my boring American culture. As far as America, we're all mixed up from all these different places. So when it comes to like having a culture, all we have is this weird American mix of cultures. So I always find things like Japan very interesting, European cultures, just anything that isn't just me and growing up in the 90s, and my culture is 90s cartoons and video games. So anyway, when I do finally read about these people, I find it very interesting. So that the Japanese, they had a vision that, like I said, the Japanese acting as mentors to these Americans. But of course, the language barrier made cooperation extremely difficult. Led to frequent conflicts. Even the game development itself, originally envisioned as a time travel adventure, the game underwent significant changes during its development. As far as the time travel thing, it was supposed to be like, because kind of what Sonic's doing in the game, saving these animals, there was supposed to be, and of course it's the 90s, so a lot of environmentalism type stuff to it. So a lot of their zones were going to be like this big, beautiful, woodsy area. And then later in the game, after Robotnik gets to it, it's like a fire forest or something. The same way like it was supposed to be in this game, the ocean level, big, beautiful ocean level. And then Robotnik gets to it, and now it's the kind of the level we get, this oil spill everywhere, industrial area. So as far as time travel, they were kind of going to mix the levels like that, which if you know anything about me and have listened to any of these episodes, I love time changes. We were just talking about that in Link to the Past with Light and Dark World. So I would have thought that would have been really cool. And we'll talk about this game is huge on like these unfinished levels, these unfinished prototypes, physical prototypes out there, has developed this like crazy community of people hunting down, data mining all this stuff on Sonic 2. We'll talk some more of that later as well. So memory and time limitations forced the team to cut content, including entire levels, resulting in a shorter final project than initially planned. Despite these complications, the game introduced several elements that would become staples of the series, such as Tails, the spin dash move, and the ability to transform into Super Sonic. STI brainstormed various ideas to improve the first game's formula, beginning with making Sonic faster. So it's like first, I like that. It's like Sonic 2 was this crazy fast game. First goal, make it faster. So that's a good goal. In the first game, the developers limited Sonic with a cap to prevent players from running at his maximum possible speed. So first things first, STI lifted that cap on Sonic 2. You can go as fast as this system can handle. The team wanted to add a second playable character so siblings could play together. It was suggested the second character be endearing and beginner-oriented rather than Sonic's rival, as we kind of get with Knuckles later. Developers were adamant about including the multiplayer, believing it just makes games more fun. And how about that sibling rivalry back in the day on games like this? The best thing about Sonic 2 and its two-player is you could play one player with like a super young sibling, and they can just be playing with Tails in the background. They're jumping on stuff. They're collecting coins for you, but not like hurting you at all in your gameplay or anything. Or you can go to your two-player mode. We finally got this split screen we really hadn't seen before. With Mario and these kind of games, it was always taking turns. So for two kids to be able to play together at the same time, that was revolutionary. I'm glad that they really pushed that in, and the developers did based off of just the sibling aspect of having two kids playing together in the living room. So I always have fond memories playing video games with my sister, as well as all my friends back then. So as far as Tails goes, an internal contest was held to determine the new character. So just like these Mega Man contests, except this is all in office. Like imagine that you're working on this brand new sequel to this huge popular game, And one day you're meeting, you come into the office, and they're saying, here's the contest, develop a new character. Like, these are the kind of like dreams I have that, I wish you can't go back in time and and say I want to grow up and be a 90s video game developer. I'm not sure I'd want to be a video game developer now. It sounds like a nightmare. Sounds like you're working a lot and then you just get fired when this company buys this other company. Development seems like hell now, but back then, although it was probably still hell developing this stuff, just to be on the cusp of this brand new technology. So anyway, the contest was held. The winning design was a man named Yamaguchi. He drew the fox, which he named Miles Prower, which is a pun on miles per hour, which I never knew. So miles per hour, you get it. I like puns. Sega of America felt the name Miles per hour would not sell and suggested Tails as an alternative. Just another case of we're too dumb over here, or at least the people in charge of all these American companies think all of us are too dumb and always wanted to dumb down all these games over here. Originally, Tails was drawn as a tanuki with one spinning tail. Another concept that almost made it was Boomer the Flying Turtle, designed with a more co-op gameplay. Think like Banjo and Kazooie. There'd be instances of Sonic like riding Boomer's shell across spikes and kind of this grouping up together thing. Like Sonic would have to spin dash into Boomer to make him fly, and then you could jump on him. Other concepts included a bird, a bee, a kiwi, and an armadillo, all kind of creatures that make it into the game as enemies. Even in this game, during the airplane level, there are like flying turtles, little turtles riding like little rocket turtles. So that might be a little Boomer reference in there for you. But after Sonic 2, STI pretty much ended. This game was a rushed game. They wanted it out for a holiday. I think they might have had like 11 months or something. So another rushed game, tons of artists getting all their stuff cut, tons of weird decisions being made at the top, as far as the bosses telling these developers what to do. So STI pretty much ended as far as their experiment of this Japan and USA team up. The teams, they didn't work out as planned. So after Sonic 2, they gave the Japan team on their own Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and then the US team on their own got Sonic Spinball, which is like, blah, we get the Spinball. You guys go do the awesome new Sonic 3 and Knuckles attachment. But anyway, one can't help but wonder if perhaps some like chili dog lunch days might have maybe brought that team together, maybe salvaged the whole situation. But alas, 'twas not meant to be. Let's keep talking about that release here. Sonic 2 was, of course, highly anticipated, and first release in Japan, as they usually are, in 1992, followed by the worldwide release was just 3 days later, a day marketed as Sonic Tuesday. Number 2, Tuesday, you get it. The game received critical acclaim with praise directed towards its improved gameplay, visuals, characters, and soundtrack, and is widely regarded as one of the greatest video games of all time.
Shut up and take my money!
That can be determined on some personal preference and such. But speaking of an improved soundtrack, we're going to talk about some of this music, and we'll get into our game chat here soon. As with the first game, Sonic 2's soundtrack was composed by Masato Nakamura, a member of the J-pop band Dreams Come True. We've got a guy in here straight out of J-pop. He's up on stage, dancing around probably. I don't know what they're doing, but he's developing the music for Sonic 2 now. That is, they wanted him to, but because he got so famous after Sonic 1, he asked for a little more money. And then they were like, no. And so internally, they had someone develop. I tried to find him because I've heard him before. Just the worst music tracks you could think of when you compare them to what our Sonic 2 tracks are now. So they had internally came up with some sounds and then listened to them, and we're like, yeah, we're going to go ahead and pay that other guy to do this again. So he got the money he asked for. Thank goodness, because these tracks are baller. So he asked for a bit more money. He got it. After the team rejected the awful music, we got some sweet new tracks, and we're going to hear one now, and we're going to get into the game chat. Chemical Plant Zone. That's a great track there, too. All right, let's get right into this game chat here. We got some trivia. We got a bunch of stuff to talk about. Character-wise, we've got Sonic the Hedgehog and the first appearance of Super Sonic. I freaking love that sprite. That guy looks awesome. It's just like the wind's blowing on him and everything. We'll talk Super Sonic soon. We got Miles, Tails Prower. The bargain between those developers was that Tails would become the nickname. So we throw Tails in between there, but the developer himself, the guy who came up with Miles Prower, made it a point to stick that name every place he could, the Miles part of it. So we all know him as Miles Prower. Well, a lot of people just know him as Tails, but he got his name out there. We've also got Dr. Eggman or Dr. Robotnik and the many, many badniks and of course, cute little fluffy animals. Animals with strange names like Pocky and Flicky and Cucky. All these little creatures you're saving that Robotnik's turning into bad robot guys. So taking a look at the manual, it's got your nice box art on the front. Nothing real crazy here in the manual. We're black and white. It does have cool drawings of all your Batniks and all your info. But then, just like some of these books had, it's got a cool little Sonic Super hint page with hints that you need, like grab every ring you can. And when you lose rings, rush to grab them again. So, I mean, if you didn't know, like bash into lots of enemies for a high score. So some of these hint pages back then, not very informative, but they're there, so we'll take it. Control-wise, we're on the Sega. We've got that Batman, that Batarang controller I always liked. Sonic and Tails can run, jump, crouch, and attack by curling into a ball. Sonic 2 introduces the Spin Dash, which allows the players to curl while stationary for a speed boost. One of the biggest complaints of Sonic 1 was getting stuck and not making it up hills, which I can agree with. So the Spin Dash, it really does change this game, changes Sonic. It's almost like when Mega Man gets his like charge up Buster gun. It's like, it's a different... Now there's Sonic 1 where you can't spin dash and then everything else after. But it is what it is. In the default single-player game mode, the player controls Sonic and Tails simultaneously. And like I said, a second player can join in anytime, controls Tails separately. You can also choose to play as Sonic or Tails individually at the beginning of the game. The player collects golden rings as a form of health. If they have at least one ring when they collide with an enemy or obstacle, they will survive, but their rings will scatter and blink before disappearing. That classic ring splash happens to me all the time. It was always so depressing just when you see your 100 rings just flying across the screen. But the ring mechanic itself is pretty cool as far as stepping away from your typical platformer, stepping away from your Mario. Whereas Mario represented its health in the mini and the big Mario with the mushrooms. You've got Sonic, where as long as you've got at least a ring, you're good to go. So interesting mechanic there. I like it. Story-wise, it's got a big couple of pages of story as far as in the manual and stuff. Story-wise, we know Dr. Robotnik, evil guy, trying to take all the animals, trying to turn the world into his... robotic paradise. The only thing he's missing is those 7 Chaos Emeralds. Those magnificent gems are believed to hold exceptional powers. With them, Robotnik could have the entire world within his grasp. So that's the basic of the game. Robotnik's cool as a villain. I keep referencing Mega Man, but hey, they're both Sonic's blue, Mega Man's blue. Dr. Wily, Dr. Robotnik, building robots. They're kind of the same there. So it's always the cool robot bosses because it's always just Robotnik coming up with some weird new invention. Players control Sonic and the two-tailed fox named Miles Tailprower as they venture into West Side Island to stop Dr. Eggman from collecting the 7 Chaos Emeralds to power his new space station, the Death Egg. And that's all we really need to know there. So when you start the game, we're going to start this game in the best way possible with that old Sega fire-up sound. Sega! I love it. Gameplay-wise, we've got 11 zones featuring various acts, bosses, enemies, and bonus levels as well. If the player passes a checkpoint with 50 or more rings, they can warp to a special stage for an opportunity to collect one of those Chaos Emeralds we were talking about. This is where you run through that half-pipe kind of 3D looking levels. It was cool to throw those kind of levels into the mix as far as making them different and making them look just kind of 3D, kind of new. Those levels are rough for me, some of those bonus levels. You have to collect in those bonus levels, a certain number of rings in order to continue. When all the Chaos Emeralds have been collected, when you've got all 7, Sonic can transform into Super Sonic by collecting 50 rings, and then you just jump and you transform. Super Sonic is nearly invincible, runs faster, jumps farther, but loses 1 ring per second and reverts to normal when his rings are depleted. That's another cool mechanic they're using, as far as not just having like a straight 10-second timer or whatever on your invincibility. You can actually watch your ring count go down at the same time as you're collecting new rings, make your counter go back up. Sonic 2 also introduces, like we said, a multiplayer game mode where 2 players can compete against each other in that split-screen race across the levels if you can see where you're going. After one player finishes a level, the other player must finish within a minute, and then you are ranked in 5 areas: score, time, rings held, total rings collected, and number of item boxes broken. So it's like a point thing. You can also compete just to obtain the most rings in a special stage. So there's some options there in your multiplayer. We're going to get into the meat of it. We're going to get into these zones. We'll go right down the line. At the end of every zone, Dr. Robotnik attacks in a fantastic robot machine. Defeat him and free some of your friends from their prison egg. That was always cute and fun when you beat the boss, to jump up there and watch all your animal friends running free. We're going to play some music from each. I tried to pick a couple of tunes, a couple of levels to play music, and then I just went with every single one because they're all pretty good. So we're going to hear each one. Let's start off with Emerald Hill Zone. I won't let them all play this long, but I just really like this one. A little bit more. There it is. Emerald Hill Zone, a beautiful, sprawling, grassy landscape similar to Sonic 1's Green Hill Zone. Speed through this tropical bayside resort with palm trees, loop-de-loops, and corkscrew speedways, but watch out for monkey business. At the end of Emerald Hill Act 2, the player fights the Egg Drillster, a giant death cart with a drill in the front. So our classic Sonic level, beginning of the game. This is the level that represents Sonic, makes Sonic. You can identify it from a distance. When it comes to that big bright blue, the big bright green, the real kind of Minecrafty looking level design there. But it's also the physical parts of it. You've got the loops. You've got kind of the fake 3D on those corkscrew runs. And the bright colors. People were always arguing which system was better, Super Nintendo or Sega. It's when it comes to sound, and you hear a game like Sonic 2 versus a game like, let's say, A Link to the Past or Mega Man X or Donkey Kong Country. It's like I could list a lot more sounds I like from Super Nintendo in some of those games, but Sonic 2, it's sounds more crisp. It made me believe this blast processing was happening. And same with the colors. Some of these games, why do these colors seem brighter and crisper on the Sonic 2 versus a Mario World? I guess it's just, there's definite arguments to be had over the graphics of the Sega versus the Super Nintendo, as we continue to do at the playgrounds and such. And then the boss, the Egg Drillster, and you'll come to find out with all these Sonic bosses, it's pretty much you're going to jump on Robotnik somehow. So you're obviously just going to avoid spikes, you're going to avoid fire and the claws and all those kind of things. But we'll move in to our next zone. That is the Chemical Plant Zone. The Chemical Plant Zone, Eggman's chemical producing facility, pushes the player to running on twisting tubes and menacing mechanics. Flash through this high-tech maze built with pipes and endless ducts. Robotnik's flooded the factory with a pool of toxic liquid called Mega Mac that poisons Sonic if he touches it. Its boss here is the Egg Poison, where Eggman's Eggmobile drops chemicals onto our unfortunate hero. So this level, the Chemical Plant Zone, Sonic's pretty well known too for its like industrial levels, kind of right up there with like Donkey Kong Country. In this case, we've got our first water mechanic here. At least they're like changing the colors up. But when it comes to Sonic, when it comes to water, it's tough on this guy. It slows down like you are in molasses. So it's just the difference then between running up top, hitting that water, slowing down, of course, looking for those air bubbles. We add that, so whereas, Mario's swimming all day long, Sonic, you got to get out of that water, or you got to find an air bubble. That noise used to scare the crap out of me when I was a kid. But we've got that kind of purple ooze at the bottom, and the way these levels kind of play, I've always thought with all these Sonic games, between Sonic 1, 2, 3, your kind of originals here, was almost like, and I've mentioned this before, like layers. I feel like if you're doing well and hitting the jumps you're supposed to, you're on this top layer, this top level, where you're getting a lot more items. Like it rewards you for staying up high, punishes you for falling down and going down low. But it's also not like a backtrack where you have to go back to get up high. It's almost like typically maybe like 2 or 3 paths to get to the end of the level. Also, towards the end of this game, Sonic introduces a lot of the backtracking. Not so much backtracking across the level, but the fact that you're platforming to the left as opposed to platforming to the right like we're so used to. It almost makes you feel like, am I lost or am I doing something wrong because I'm going this way, but it is actually the way to go then. It almost, the levels are almost like a Metroid level, but it wants you to platform like fast through it. So I always thought that was cool. But we'll talk about some of these items here before we get going into some more levels. We've got those TV monitors around. It's what they are. They're called monitors. I always just thought they looked like some CRT tube TVs when I was a kid, and to this day, we're just busting open TVs, I guess. But our items is the Super Ring monitor. That's your 10 ring there with your little ring on the picture. We've got the shield that provides Sonic with a temporary shield. The speed boost, if you just want to go faster. I always worry getting the speed. I feel like, when I click on those red sneakers. But that's the speed boost. I can't think of a point in the game where it's like required to get you through anything, but it's there. And then you've got the extra life, your little Sonic icon there. And of course, invincibility makes Sonic invincible for a short time, but not against your instant deaths, not against your falling off or your smush. That's the thing. When blocks are moving, or those like stair type blocks, and you get smushed between things, it ain't saving you from that. Next up is the Aquatic Ruin Zone. In the Aquatic Ruin Zone, an ancient ruin with underwater sections and dangerous, unstable pillars. Roaming Romans infest a beautiful forest and sunken lake, explore an intricate maze, and you're stuck underwater. Breathe the air bubbles to keep from drowning. An obnoxious countdown timer begins when your oxygen is running out. And in Act 2, the player fights the Egg Hammer, where the Eggmobile hits one of the 2 pillars with an oversized hammer, making that pillar fire an arrow. Dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge across those arrows. Hop up on them. Bounce off a Robotnik. You get it. The arrows in this game, they're real hard to see throughout the levels as just the platforming part of it. There's little pillars that shoot little arrows out at you. Watch out for those. But shout out to just Sega and Sonic for bringing like original level designs that feel fresh, because this kind of repeats from Sonic 1, the Ancient Ruin Zone, and it's unique to Sonic. So it's like maybe Sega can do what Nintendon't when it comes to like these levels, because they're managing to stand out even against a trilogy of Mario games by making new and unique levels, and it just looks great. They don't have to put this much detail into these levels. This one's got a lot of like bushes and trees in the foreground that your sprite then is behind as you're playing, creating more of that kind of fake 3D. And I shouldn't have to talk about the backgrounds of these levels. It's hard when you're playing this game and trying to pay attention to speeding and stuff, but really stop and look at these backgrounds. Again, another thing that doesn't have to be that beautiful, but looks great. But we'll keep moving on to the Casino Night Zone. What was I just saying about these unique levels? What other game are you playing in a casino that isn't like some RPG game or something? But like this level itself, everyone knows these casino levels. Everyone can recognize them. They are so bright, and it's got that city landscape in the back, and of course just everything that goes along with the casino level, the pinball, the bumpers. Anyway, Casino Night Zone, a Vegas-themed city in the night. It incorporates pinball gimmicks like bumpers and flippers, as well as slot machines. Sparkling neon lights and glittering gold fill the casino with razzmatazz. Flip the levers and push down the springs to send Sonic reeling like a bouncing blue pinball. The boss of Casino Night Act 2 is the Catch Eggman, which is the Eggmobile with a claw on its belly, playing like a claw machine version of Catch the Sonic. And like I was saying, just what they cram into this, it is fluorescent lights everywhere. It is like seizure inducing, this level with its bright colors, and I can't help but keep using the word crisp. I don't know why. It's like the SNES seems maybe more blurry compared to some of the Sonic games. There aren't a lot of Sega games that I would highlight and put on a pedestal against Super Nintendo like I am with Sonic 2 here. I am a Nintendo fanboy, and I wouldn't even have to think if you're asking me, if it's the console war, if I could only have one, Sega Genesis or Super Nintendo, I don't even have to think it's going to be the Super Nintendo. But man, there are some gems on this system, just like this one. So we'll keep going. Before we get to the levels, we'll talk about a few of the enemies here. Like I've said, the boss sprites always look great. Besides just the regular enemies, the bosses, the Robotnik robots, even though they don't get complicated, it might seem repetitive. It's just the Eggmobile with a new attachment, but they always look great, and they always animate very well too. Very smooth when you think you would get some slowdown. But some of the enemies themselves, we'll highlight some. You've got the buzzers. Those are those robot hornet bee things, it's always when they're shooting little balls that you never see. That little yellow ball thing or something you have to avoid, a little fireball. Those are the ones that always get me. We've got the grabber. That's the spider that comes down and grabs you. You're too much like those Zelda hands in those dungeons, and I don't like being picked up at all. I do like how all these robot enemies, of course, are like mocking kind of nature. And if you've heard some of my podcasts before, I really like art styles that combine mechanical and nature like that. I like the robot animals. I like a robot forest where leaves are like metal. I don't know why. Also, we've got coconuts. Though you guys know, I don't even have to say, those are those monkeys up in the trees throwing coconuts. How much do you think a big steel coconut weighs if they're getting chucked at you? I think it's like they're laughing at you up there too. We've got Grounder. He's in this game. Those are the drill guys. And shout out to him, because that's like the sidekick from the cartoon. He's got like the drill hands and stuff. Also looks kind of like a Z-Bot. If anybody remembers Z-Bots, shout out to Z-Bots from when you were a kid. We've also got Turtleoid. That's the guy I was mentioning earlier, perhaps a Boomer reference. I don't know. And then we've got Clucker. I just like him. He's the assault chicken. He's got a freaking machine gun. He pops out of the ground. Just a robot assault chicken. Next zone on our list here is gonna be the Hilltop Zone. Oh, set atop tall mountains with caves and flowing liquid hot magma. Lava boils from volcanoes and earthquakes shake the ground, spring for the rings on teeter-totters, and blast through underground tunnels and caverns. Hilltop's boss is the Egg Scorcher Mark II, which emerges from one of 2 lava pools to fire a flamethrower. This one's got some it's very kind of similar to Emerald Hill Zone as far like as color-wise, but it's got some really cool backgrounds. It's another couple of levels that really reward you for staying up top, kind of staying up high. It also has some like level mechanics as well, like lava rising and the mountain falling apart and these kind of things. So those are real cool. Watch out for that boss too at the end. You're avoiding some lava, spraying lava on the ground, avoiding all of that stuff too. But it'll take us into one of my favorite zones in the game, the Mystic Cave Zone. Oh, if I had to label a level in this game a Halloween level, it's gonna be that one. It's got that creepy, eerie music I like. It's a dark looking level. Oh, but the colors look really good. The purple and the black and the green. Those are some good Halloween colors too. But I like a night level. I like a dark background. Makes everything in the front pop. This one's feeling like kind of like an abandoned kind of mine shaft type of situation. An underground mine where the player navigates using vines and switches to open doors. Robotnik's been digging for chaos emeralds in this eerie forest of flickering lights, glowworms, and stinging centipedes. Hang on to the ivy to discover escape routes. Act 2 ends in a fight against the Egg Digger, where Eggman digs into the ceiling to cause earthquakes and drop rubble on poor Sonic. So again, it's always been a favorite of mine. The bosses seem easy, even like compared to the level itself. Sometimes the level is the boss on some of these versus the actual boss fight. It's almost like a breeze. This one isn't too bad. You're not even... this is like a environmental kind of fight as far as that boss fight, because you got Robotnik attacking like the Earth itself, and then the Earth falls, and you have to avoid those things. So it's not even like he's attacking you directly. So it'll mix up that fight a little bit there. And then another new mechanic in this level is all the vine stuff, which can be, this isn't like a fast level. It's a bit more corridors. There's going to be a lot of things stopping you. And it's almost like past this point in the game, we're going to slow down as far as what Sonic's doing. We're not just breezing through levels anymore. And in this case, you'll be running super fast, and then suddenly you grab a vine. You just have to stop and let the vine go down while it opens up a bridge or whatever else it's doing. We'll take a quick little pit stop here and talk about some cheats and codes before we get back into some of these levels. Some of the cheats, one of them is you can display Tails' name as Miles. So you can enter in a code at the title screen, and then in game it will change Tails' name to Miles. Remember I talked about that developer just obsessed with the name Miles over Tails. In the Japanese release, where Miles is the default name, the code then changes his name to Tails. Just weird. Some classic codes, though. We've got the level select. There is a code for 14 continues. There's also a debug mode. And, of course, you can do all sorts of weird things in the debug mode. And then there's a password to get all 7 Chaos Emeralds just right off the get. So you can give yourself a little bit of that supersonic edge. By getting those Chaos Emeralds early. I struggle getting the Chaos Emeralds on the bonus stages. It's always Tails messing it up for me, hitting the bombs and losing all my rings. But we'll get into this a couple more of these levels here. Next up, the levels are getting tougher. We're going to be moving a little slower, like I was saying, but we'll start out with the Oil Ocean Zone. Eggman's Coastal Oil Refinery. Gimmicks here include oil slides, furnaces that can be used as platforms to reach upward sections, elevators, fans, and cannons. Robotnik's refineries are pumping at full steam. Crude oil has turned the ocean black. Can Sonic keep his footing on this slippery catwalk and bursting vents? The boss of Oil Ocean is the Egg Marine, which periodically emerges from the oil after attacking the player with a harpoon and a laser cannon. Sharks with frickin' laser beams on their heads. The oil looks great in this level. It's like even Mario started using like purple ooze after a while, as far as like a dangerous environmental part in a level. I guess the lava can just get kind of boring after a while. It can get a little repetitive. And Sonic also starts doing a lot of back traveling here, like I was talking about, a lot of going to the left. In this case, you end up on these oil slides. You're sliding all over the place. But the boss is fine. The levels look great. It does feel like an oil rig somewhere in the ocean or something, this level. But looks good. Moving on to another banging level, the Metropolis Zone. See, you think they start slipping up on the tunes with something like Oil Ocean Zone, and then they bring it right back with a nice track in Metropolis Zone. This zone has 3 acts instead of the usual 2. It is set in mostly crammed corridors filled with enemies and hazards. Sonic's finally chased Robotnik to his own capital city, but he finds a fortress of iron and steel. Danger lurks in every spinning cylinder, every pounding piston and rolling gear. At the end of Act 3, the player fights the Egg Bouncer, which is the Egg Mobile protected by a ring of inflatable Eggmen. These levels get very maze-like, but again, they look great, just like just how they do these industrial zones in here. It's very factory-like, but different colors, feels very unique. Again, look at the things going on in the background. The things in the background are just smaller versions of things you're going through, so it feels, again, creating that kind of 3D feeling to it. And the boss, one of the tougher ones because of what he's got bouncing around him, like almost a protected ring. But, same deal. Hit him from the bottom. And we will move on to these unique levels. We're starting to hit the end game here. We got 3 levels left, and this is the Sky Chase Zone. We're gonna calm down, just take a nice little relaxing plane ride with that music. Robotnik has escaped to the sky. Sonic's a wing walker and Tails is his pilot in a perilous battle above the clouds. A single act zone where Sonic and Tails board the tornado in the sky while attacked by waves of badniks. At the end, we automatically move right into the next zone, and this level's, it's definitely unique. It feels very like arcade-like, and it is kind of just almost like a mid-level, get us to our end game type of thing, because you're not in a level, you're riding on the plane, but it's kind of iconic to Sonic. It ended up in the movie, all these kind of things. The fact that Tails can fly, but then is also a pilot, has always been funny and funny to me. But again, that's just the one act. And before we move into our final toughest 2 levels here, let's talk a little Sonic trivia. So Sega aggressively promoted Sonic the Hedgehog 2, spending approximately $10 million on advertising. Promotion began early when Sega sent mock-up screenshots to magazines, as well as starting to send mock-up games to other companies. A lot of these prototype physical actual games and files all still out there, all being hunted down by this community of data miners. But an early version of the game appeared on the Nickelodeon game show Nick Arcade several times, if you remember that show, including a competition where Clarissa Explains It All star Melissa Joan Hart is playing that little demo disc herself. Not very well if you watch the clip. But shout out of all things, Melissa Joan Hart, Clarissa, Sabrina, playing Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on the old show Nick Arcade. So nice memories there for you. A Sonic fan discovered that Sonic 2 prototype featured on Nick Arcade in 2006 and raised over $1,500 to buy the cartridge and release the ROM image online. The prototype, while unfinished, showed fans how STI built the game atop the original Sonic the Hedgehog. And on a sadder note, an alternate version of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was developed for Sega's 8-bit consoles, the Master System, and the handheld Game Gear. The 8-bit version features different levels, worse music, as well as a dumb plot in which Sonic must rescue a kidnapped Tails. So Tails isn't even in the game besides getting kidnapped at the beginning. And yeah, I don't even remember my Sonic 2 Game Gear episode at all, but it's terrible. Don't play it. I mean, the Master System might have been okay, but now knowing what I know about the Master System, it's like they took that Master System version, your 8-bit Sonic 2 version, and then essentially trimmed off, took a quarter of the screen away, and now you're playing Sonic on that. And yeah, the Game Gear version, nearly impossible. This game itself is famous for its amount of cut content and a community dedicated to researching it. In 1999, a Sonic fan discovered the ROM image of an early prototype containing Hidden Palace, Wood, and Genocide City levels on a Chinese website and shared it with the Western Sonic fandom. I see Hidden Palace brought up a lot. There may even be, I don't know, sound files in the actual Sonic 2. And then Genocide City is one of the levels that was made for this game. There was another, like a snow level, one of a developer made. All of her stuff got cut. Like I said, there's real fascinating, better videos and stuff out there than I could ever make explaining the development of Sonic 2. But when asked about, because I mean, Genocide City probably wouldn't fit so well. It was almost like a translation thing as far as the Japan developers named it Genocide City just because they thought it sounded kind of edgy. The discovery there played a significant role in the development of a video game community in which players data mine games and document the prototypes to understand how they were developed. Like treasure hunters or the guys on Oak Island, except these guys actually find stuff. So shout out to all you data miners. Shout out to just you nerds with all that tech stuff. Either discovering these things or much props on the other end of preserving these things. These people that find this kind of info, preserve it. They scan things. They take all this data in, file it somewhere where everyone can access it. Much love to that. There's tons of lost prototypes, like I said, physically for this. Tons of artwork you can go look up, even including the like the time jump type stuff. One of the levels was even like Banjo-Kazooie style, like you would play it in the summer, you would play it in the winter, you would play it in the fall, and like all these things would change. So just tons of stuff out there for this game. So if it interests you, again, go look it up. A lot of better videos. This is just audio here, but I'm trying. We'll move into the last zones here with Wing Fortress Zone. Yeah, not the best track there, but you're going to be busy trying not to die on this level. You are not, this is not a level you want Supersonic on. This is not a level you want to be going fast. You found Robotnik's secret stronghold, a flying battleship. Could this be Sonic's final fight? A single-act stage set in Eggman's battlecraft. At the beginning, the tornado is shot down, forcing Sonic to infiltrate the airship alone. At the end, the player enters the ship's cockpit where they fight the laser prison, a room with ceiling laser and spiky platforms. And then once the boss is defeated, you are on out of here, back onto that plane to chase down Robotnik. Sonic grabs hold of Robotnik's ship and just off you go into space. Very dramatic cinematic going on there. But the Wing Fortress Zone, like I said, is a death trap. It's got when you're at the bottom of that ship, there's nothing below you. Very small platforms. Sonic's trying to land on those things. He wants to slide around a little bit. But as far as being a penultimate level here before your boss, it's definitely tough. But not as tough as the Death Egg itself. Oh man, it's tough to make it through this last. Everyone else says this game's easy, but you know I'm bad at video games. This last part feeds me my lunch all day. Located in the heart of the Death Egg, this zone is composed solely of 2 bosses, and the player is given no rings or checkpoints during either battle. First, the player fights Mega Sonic. Frickin' chainsaw head, rocket boots. Like, you know I love alternate versions of ourselves, and the Mega Sonic fight is awesome. It's challenging, but that one's not too bad. And again, you start out with no rings, so you've got to one-shot both of these bosses, which makes it especially tough. But at least I enjoy the Mega Sonic fight. It's just you and Mega Sonic in a room, Mega Man style. And from there, you'll know the fight when you get there. It can be, as long as you're paying attention to the moves, him spinning. It's just whether or not he spins across the floor, whether or not he jumps with his chainsaw head if he's going to get you. But once you beat Mega Sonic, you will head on up to the final boss in the Death Egg robot, a giant mech modeled after Eggman that can fly with a jetpack, fire its arms, and deploy bombs. And you just gotta take out the robot. You can hit his big fat belly, but you can't do it when, spikes and claws and these kind of things are out. So a pretty good boss fight. Really tough because you got no rings. That one I can do it all right. It just takes a while because I'm scared, so I'll get my 1 or 2 hits in, and then it's a lot of rinse and repeat with that one. But the game itself, you beat him. You race on out of the exploding ship, like the Falcon shooting out of the Death Star. Tails swoops down on his plane to save Sonic, and our heroes are off to their next adventure. This game has multiple endings. They say a good, a bad, and a Tails. And with the good being, if you do collect all 7 Chaos Emeralds, you fly out of that thing as supersonic. So you're already just kind of flying. Tails comes up in his plane, and you guys, high five and head out of here. The bad ending, you didn't get all the Chaos Emeralds. Sonic flies out of the exploding ship and then just falls dramatically for a while, and it's all over. You think Sonic's going to be gone for good, and Tails swoops in on his plane because Tails needs a plane to fly. And so he saves him that way. And then the Tails ending, which is just Tails. Then Sonic gets him in the plane. I don't remember the only thing about the Tails ending is if Tails is out there spinning and falling, he should just start kind of flying. Is kind of my synopsis there. But we'll keep going. Before we get into comments, I want to talk a little bit about the legacy of this game. Sonic 2 was a major factor in keeping Sega competitive during the console wars of the 16-bit era in the 90s. It boosted Genesis sales enough to nearly equalize Sega with Nintendo and cemented Sonic as a video game mascot on par with Nintendo's Mario. There hasn't been anything since, because everyone to this day will argue, who's the mascot of PlayStation? I guess you could look at Xbox and probably say Halo, probably say Master Chief, but there's always arguments over PlayStation. Is it Kratos? Is it Lara Croft? All this kind of, I think it should just be the guy from Parappa the Rapper. So it's for them to make Sonic and just for him to be, it's just like a guess. You can see everything that's came since then. Everyone's always trying to make that mascot with your Sly Cooper, your Rocket Knight, even into games like PlayStation, your Spyro. Just all these things, what's going to be the mascot. And for them to just nail it with Sonic like that, it's just chef's kiss. And as well, the Sonic Tuesday promotion has been credited for originating the concept of the quote-unquote street date in the video game industry, in which games are made available worldwide in all stores on the same day. The practice was uncommon before Sonic 2's release and became a widespread industry trend in the following years. And that is where we get all those overnight gaming parties. I think the biggest one I could think of, waiting in front of stores, lining up, and then having these huge parties was the Halo 2 release. I wasn't huge into Halo and stuff back then. I just, as a gamer, know about that release, know about everybody waiting in line, having LAN parties that freaking night. Making friends in line, eating snacks, just talking video games. If somebody's in a 12-hour line or more, for a video game, it's you could walk up to that line and just know that everyone's your friend. Essentially, there's no hate, there's no any of that stuff. You're all in line for the same game that you like. Bring that back. Bring back that game and love. And before we get into the comments, another side note, our buddy Tails, he did get 2 spin-offs. If you don't know, Tails Adventure and Tails Sky Patrol, both of those available exclusively only for the Game Gear. But check those out if you can find them. I had Tails Adventures when I was a kid. I'm a big Tails nut. Like, I like Tails. I don't know if he catches a lot of flack. I played as Tails. I used to draw Tails. I like Tails. But let's keep going. We're going to talk some comments and awards and a bunch of other Sonic stuff. Let's go.
Aren't you a little old for video games?
That man is playing Galaga. Thought we wouldn't notice, but we did.
Let's do all the things that you want to do. Throw me a frickin' phone here. I'm the boss. Need the info.
I've lived in mortal terror that this would happen.
Get on with the ceremony.
All right, let's keep the Sonic love going with a couple of comments here. Matt says the music on this bangs. Casino Night will have you gambling extra just to enjoy it. Just hanging around Casino Night and listen to that music. The music's great. Some tracks get a little repetitive, but it wouldn't be known for having great music if it wasn't great music. We've got, what is this? No Controls for Paper. He says Chemical Plant Zone is hands down one of the finest tracks of the early 90s. More music shout-outs, and I love Chemical Plant Zone. Cat Tango here says, for a Rush game, it turned out very well. However, there are many broken pieces to this game. The music is top-notch as it was done by the previous game's composer, only this time with free range of musical direction. Overall, remembering this game as a kid, it wasn't a letdown. Sonic 2 was expected to be great, and it delivered. A rushed game. You've got a Rush game. You've got a lot of pressure from a successful first game to make this game even better. And for them they pulled it all off, like in every category, levels, music, visuals, all this thing. Well, we'll rate all that in a minute here. But man, they pulled it off for a rushed game, for people not speaking the same language. Flashman here says, first game I ever beat. I played it countless times, found every glitch and secret pathway, used all the cheat codes, rebuilt levels using debug mode. It's been 30 years and I still find myself humming some of the music, one of my all-time favorites. So check out debug mode. I didn't have the patience when I was a kid to find secrets in this. And it's hard, too, because some of them you have to be going 60 miles an hour or whatever to even make it up there. So it's hard to backtrack to a starting point to try to make a big jump. But Robbie here says, after 30 plus years of consideration, this is my favorite Sonic game. It definitely has my favorite music, and the variety of levels is staggering and makes the game feel so much longer. The only issue I have is that, like most 2D Sonic games, the earlier levels are more fun than the later ones, as if all the good ideas were exhausted by the halfway point. And I can see where your comment's coming from there, except for the fact that they had 25 plus unreleased levels. That also looked very good. But I do feel like, the 3 levels towards the end here start to get hit or miss with me. I guess I do enjoy the front half of the game better. But I'm not sure. It was a rushed game, like we were saying. So I don't think they just kind of got lazier towards the end. But maybe they could have mixed it up or picked a different level to put in there. Epitot here says, plugging Sonic 2 into Sonic and Knuckles cartridge to play it as Knuckles was so fun. I'm just throwing that comment in there for a shout out to that Knuckles add-on there. Kind of the industry's first little DLC there. I still don't understand the magic happening in that little cartridge there when you put another game on top and suddenly you're playing as Knuckles and all these familiar levels you played in Sonic 2. Now you're climbing on walls and reaching areas you've never reached before. So it was really ambitious and again paid off for them. So good job on your Knuckles cartridge. Nitric Siege here says, I honestly hate the level design of Sonic and could never wrap my head around it. Too fast-paced and didn't even know where I was going. I couldn't even say what came before, but if I had to pick a Sonic to be the best one, it's 100% Sonic 2. So we have a non-Sonic fan here. which they're out there, and it's fine. Like I said, this game isn't for everybody. It's not Mario. But for him to say he hates the level design of Sonic, he doesn't like Sonic, it's too fast-paced, but of all the Sonic I hate, number 2 is the best. So I appreciate that. Jack Sloan here says, for me, it was Sonic 3 and Knuckles, not only for the gameplay, but also the technology behind them. So we were just talking about that. It's debated now. People are always debating Mega Man games, debating Mario games. And that's the debate here. Which is better, Sonic 2 or Sonic 3 and Knuckles? To each their own as far as what game you prefer, but we're all here and we all like playing some Sonic games. Last comment here from Casimir says, I agree that it was just a perfect game. Playing through it with my uncle is one of my fondest memories. I later on beat it by myself and remember how nerve-wracking it was to get to Metropolis. Today, as a grown-ass adult, it is not my favorite since it is too easy. Sonic 3 is my favorite. I'm actually prepared to say that Sonic 3 and Knuckles is the best game of all time. It just has everything you want in a game. Its art style is infinitely preferable to depressing modern stuff like Elden Ring, and its gameplay was infinitely more fun. Your comment, you prefer Sonic 3, and that's fine. It's the way you compare it to a game like Elden Ring that makes me smile. Like I haven't played Elden Ring, but for you to say that Sonic 3 is better than Elden Ring, I like that. You can't really say if a game's better or not, but it just goes to show what these older games mean for us, mentally. That you will play a game like Sonic 3, like an old childhood friend, and you will get all the dopamine, you will get all the happiness and all the feels you need from a game like that versus a more realistic, depressing game like Elden Ring. And just a lot of these modern games. That's why a lot of people go back to their retro games. You'll play a game like Last of Us and then finish your night, before going to bed with 20 minutes of Sonic or Mario or Donkey Kong or something to cleanse the palate from some of these heavy detailed, emotionally tolling modern games that are out there. So I like that comment. Let's keep retro gaming alive while still making really cool modern games. Just keep it all going. We'll get into some awards here, and we'll wrap it up on another longer than usual episode, but this little blue hedgehog deserves it. We're going to do award number 1 for a Sonic game is the Green Hill Zone Award. That's going to go to the best looking level, and this is tough for me to decide. So we'll run down a few. You've got Casino Night. Like I said, what other games have that casino level that is so unique to Sonic? The other thing is the sounds. It's got all those tings and bings and casino sounds with your flippers and the pinball sounds with the bumpers and all those kind of things. We've got the Aquatic Ruin Zone. That is just so iconic to Sonic, ever since Sonic 1, the Roman ruins theme. Mario didn't really hasn't really picked that up. Maybe they're leaving, it's weird to where Mario has your basic, your grass to your snow to your desert. Well, I guess Mario really took over the desert based on Mario 2 and Doki Doki Panic really took on pyramids and all these kind of themes. Sonic has its ancient ruins, has its casino levels. Mystic Cave, shout out there, just creates an eerie atmosphere for a 2D platform level. But the winner is going to go, for me, my favorite level is Emerald Hill Zone. Because it is just so iconically Sonic. It's just your big oceans and beaches in the background, your loops and your ramps. Eventually all this gets played into the bigger Sonic games with Sonic Adventure, that kind of beach theme. The land just kind of floating in space, almost like Avatar looking type of stuff. It's just different than Mario. Backgrounds look great. I like Emerald Hill Zone. I like Green Hill Zone. I like those OG Sonic levels. Award number 2 is going to go to QLEX and the Crystals Award. That's going to be the craziest boss sprite. And not a lot as far as Robotnik and his Eggmobile. But we'll shut out the Eggmobile drill. Your first level there, easy enough to take out, but cool looking, and pretty much let you know what Eggman, what Robotnik's all about there. We've also got I like the Egg Marine. just because it reminds me of Mega Man and like Rush Marine, his little egg submarine there. But coming in second place here is Mega Sonic. You almost took first. He's just so cool. And I've told you before about fighting versions of yourself. But just they do really good shading with him. He is a little bit bigger than Sonic, a little more imposing, standing right next to him. Evil little robot-looking eyes. Big red eyes and his big claw. Anyway, Mega Sonic, he looks really cool. But the winner is going to go to the Death Egg Robot. Your final boss, you got Robotnik up there, but it's the machines he makes. So you've got this big one. It's massive. It takes up half of your screen with the rockets and the claws. It's very imposing the way it's stomping across the level at you. So you're getting the award there. And our final award, I could not do it on this game. It's going to be Todovsky's Musical Appreciation Award for the best music track. And that's 2 Mario RPG references for you with those awards right there. But down the line here, I won't, since I played them all, I'll just play the last one again. But let's do Hilltop Zone. I like that one. It's catchy. And I'm just going to play a little bit anyway. I was just going to play a second. It's like it's hard for me to stop those from playing because it just gets better. But that's Hilltop Zone. That'll be my number 4. Number 3, going to go to Mystic Cave. And my number 2 didn't take my number 1 like the level itself, but number 2 is going to be Emerald Hill Zone. It's just so classically Sonic. But my personal favorite from this entire game is going to be, you've heard it a few times, we're going to hear it one more time, it's the Chemical Plant Zone. So there you go, Chemical Plant Zone. It's great awards for a great game. But we'll get into some ratings, and we're going to wrap it up. We're going to get out of here. So let's talk real quick, gameplay, visuals, music, sound, and awesomeness. And we will determine if this game rules, if it's a rental, or if it should be retired and Sonic should just hang up his red sneakers on the wall over there and go buy a house in Florida. But gameplay-wise, you're going to get an 8 out of 10. It is not for everyone, like I've mentioned. Different mechanics here. Little kids, me included back then, tended to struggle with the mechanics of this game. Where are you? The pacing, if you're making it up top, you're making your jumps. So an 8 out of 10 there. Visuals, 9 out of 10. I mean, that blast processing is doing its job here. It's just crisp. It's clean. It looks good even on your non-CRT, your regular screens, your regular video game, your TVs nowadays. It still looks good. It's not doing that kind of weird, looks better on an old tube type of thing. Music and sound, you're getting a 10 out of 10. I mean, come on, the guy's in a J-pop band. He's like almost K-pop Demon Hunter style over there with the J-pop, I'm sure. And finally, awesomeness, 10 out of 10. You don't make Nintendo sweat in the 90s and not gain respect. And this was the cool game to be playing. You were almost like you didn't want to talk about Mario on the playground. You wanted to talk about Sonic. So all the kids thought you were rad and hip and cool and all those things. Adding all those up, the numbers don't matter at all. But does this game rule? Oh, this game rules. Giving the plumber a run for his money. Sonic cemented himself in our gaming culture, competing with the big dogs at Nintendo. Sega gave us a game that we could just remember for decades. So grab a chili dog or two and give the Blue Hedgehog another round on his fantastic sequel. But let's push sequels aside, because next week we're picking up another first title in a legacy series series. We're going to grab those 64 controllers, give that cartridge a blow, and join us in the virtual rage room that is Super Smash Brothers. We're going to beat each other up. Sonic, you're not quite in this one yet. You'll make it into Smash Brothers eventually, but we're going to get back to Nintendo. But that's then. For now, we're going to get out of here. Thanks again for listening to this week's show. I appreciate you guys. Check me out on all that random junk I was talking about, your Facebooks and your TikToks and all that stuff. I'm out there. Just search That Game Rules. Check out some of these dumb reels and things I'm making out there. But other than that, I hope you guys have a great week. Keep on gaming, keep making those memories, and I'll see you on the next one.